guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with your bookish hot takes that I'm going to be reacting to. I'm a little nervous because you guys have some serious opinions, and so I asked on my Instagram. This is inspired by Tori. Tori from Novel Life did this. I love copying her videos, so I will link her video down below, and it is my turn to share my thoughts on these. Now, she got some good ones. She got one I thought was hilarious, and I have not seen anything as funny as that one submitted for mine, but someone in hers was like, white IKEA bookshelves are like the Stanley Cup for book girls, and I was like, no. I felt attacked. I don't have the IKEA bookshelves in here. This one is an IKEA bookshelf and I have one in my loft area, but I love Stanley mugs and I love white bookshelves. So I am here to be roasted. It's totally fine. I asked both on my normal Instagram and on my anonymous link question thing, so people get definitely more spicy in the anonymous, so more sassy, more opinionated. I've got a good amount, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Hot takes are just opinions people have that may or may not be agreed with, so we'll go ahead and just jump right in and start with the anonymous ones. The anonymous ones, like I said, get a little more opinionated. So this one, I see why people do it, but I also see the point of this person. So they said, I don't like it when authors use SJM or JLA to describe their books. It's very rare for it to reach their level, and I am like, why? I get it. You're trying to appeal to a certain audience. You're like, if you really like these authors, my book really fits that genre, those themes, those spice kind of thing. However, I do agree that it does sometimes set the bar pretty high where you're like, great, you're like Sarah J. Maas. You're like my favorite Jennifer Armentrout book, and they might not be, and they're already setting expectations a little bit too high for themselves. So I can definitely see this opinion. It is a very common marketing tactic, especially in the trad publishing industry, to say like, for fans of Nora Roberts, for fans of Stephen King, like things like that. However, if it's a super beloved author and you're expecting like a level of epicness like their books, like I would say Sarah J. Maas, she has epic romances, epic books people are obsessed with, and very rarely does a book actually live up to the epicness of what I've read of Sarah J. Maas. So I can see and I kind of agree, but I do know why authors do it. But they might hype themselves up a little too much by doing that. I knew this was gonna happen. It happened in Tori. Someone said, I prefer discreet covers over covers with real people on them. I'm a physical book girl and can't have people at uni and train know what I'm up to. Listen, do not be ashamed of what you read. I could care less if someone saw me reading a book with a shirtless man on the cover. Do I read romance? Yes. Am I ashamed of it? No. And I don't care what a random person on a train thinks about me. I am reading romance. I have literally built my entire platform of being loud and proud that I read romance. I love a shirtless man on the cover. I am so sad that like Elsie Silver's new book, the couple cover is only going to be ebook. I have talked to Kiwi Tyler about it with one of her new books. The male cover is only ebook, and I'm like, I want that male cover on my shelves, please. I love a clinch cover. I love people on my covers, and I think that it's really encapsulates the romance genre, and I feel really sad when people try to hide the fact that they're reading romance. Why are we ashamed that we are reading romance? I know there are some people who don't want like their family knowing, and that I understand, but most of the time, and I just saw a TikTok the other day where someone was like, I walked up in Barnes & Noble to a table labeled spice, not everyone knows what I'm buying. So why do you care if people know that you're reading romance, that you like romance? Why are we continuously ashamed of romance? Because it's something that is primarily women dominated, and we are going to be ashamed because we like what we like? No. Do not be ashamed of what you're reading. And I like my people on my covers. I love them. And a lot of times, like the people, there are certain authors I will not name who have discreet covers that I just do not like. You cannot tell what genre it is, and that's also something and that's why a lot of people have their couple covers on ebook, because a lot of people will scroll on Amazon just to buy books, and you need to know what you're buying. You need to know what you're getting into, and your cover is a huge marketing tactic for authors. So if people are looking for a spicy romance, they're gonna buy the spicy romance cover. So, and that's when they don't know anything about the book. They're just literally like one clicking on Amazon. I hate some authors' covers that are discreet. They have nothing to do with the book. I don't think the design is sometimes pretty. Sometimes, I mean, there are authors who have gorgeous discreet covers and sometimes they're not. It's hard. It is very hard. Sometimes they're really pretty and stunning and take a lot of thought and time and effort into it, and I will collect all of them, but given the choice, I will most likely buy the people covers over the discreet covers because I love them more. And I feel like they just are the romance genre. The fact that the historical romance genre is going away from clinch covers because of this whole discreet mindset of having to hide romance makes me so sad. Give me the bodice rippers in the grocery store and I will pick it up and buy it, and I don't care who sees me buying it. Okay, rant over. I'm so sorry, that was long. Everyone should switch to Storygraph because Goodreads is trash. I have a really hard time getting rid of Goodreads because I've literally had it since 2011. My entire reading for 13 years is on this website. And I don't want to get rid of that. I think Goodreads is also somewhere I've also cultivated a really large like following and friends, and I just don't want to scrap that. Are there kinks? There are plenty of kinks. Like Goodreads is glitching all the time and it's very annoying, and I'm aware it's owned by Goodreads. Storygraph is kind of intimidating to me, and I don't know if I want to take the time to learn a new platform, and I don't know if it's easy to have friends. Like I've seen people who link their Storygraph and I literally can't even look at it unless I have my own account. And Goodreads, anybody can look at Goodreads. You don't have to have an account to look at Goodreads, and so I don't know, I just don't want to change it, and it just seems very complex. It does like break down a lot of your reading at the end of the year, which I think is fun, but I know there's a way to transfer all your Goodreads stuff to Storygraph, but I heard it's not like 100% accurate. If you love Storygraph, great. I am probably just gonna stick to Goodreads because I like what I'm comfortable with and I don't love change. Sarah J Maas is overrated. The books have plot holes and inconsistencies. I love Sarah J Maas. I love her books. I'm someone though who will not like hyper analyze and fixate on a plot of a book. I'm just along for the ride. I am not, I mean, like, I will say when I read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, I had a lot of questions and I was very confused and there were plot holes in there, but that was like when it was like kind of obvious. For Sarah J Maas, no. Her books are so good, and I do think there are a lot of authors that people make it their personality to hate. I'm not saying this person is, but there are authors like Colleen Hoover, Sarah J Maas, people literally go out of their way to hate them, and I'm like, cool, you hate them, don't read them. Let me enjoy what I like, and I love Sarah J Maas. So I think her stories are great and her fantasy is fantastic. If she wasn't a good writer, she wouldn't be as popular as she was. If she wasn't a good storyteller, she wouldn't be as popular as she was. So you may hate Sarah J Maas, totally fine. I love her. Okay, this one is interesting that I can see why you think it, but I disagree. I follow all different book content creators on different medias, and it feels like, especially in romance book spaces, everyone recommends the same books. It depends on who you follow. And I will say, if you post popular books, you will get more views. My photos, if I post like Elsie Silver, I'm gonna get more likes. If I post a brand new book that I'm reading that I'm really excited about by an author that's not huge, they don't make it to like the top in the Kindle store, I get, like, no lie, a quarter of the likes on that photo than if I'm posting a popular book. So first off, popular books are pushed in content. My posts of non-popular books are not pushed. Also, if you look at the really popular people on booktube, a lot of times they're reading popular books, and that's because that's what people are seeking out, and they will get more views if it's a popular book. Like if I post a reading vlog reading like Allie Hazelwood, that's gonna get more views than if I posted a reading vlog reading these unknown books. So content with these hyped books is pushed, I will say that. But it also depends on who you follow. There are plenty of people that I follow where I'm like, that sounds amazing, I've never heard of it, I'm gonna go read it. And to be fair, there are popular books that everyone loves that they feel like they have to kind of keep up on, and that's the question as a content creator. Do I read what's popular to, one, get my content pushed and people watching it, two, to be like up on the trends and understanding what people are loving, and just like FOMO. I don't want to like not read this book because everyone's loving it. Like Ride by Ellie Hazelwood. I still haven't read it, but I'm going to read it because everybody's talking about it and I'm like, I gotta figure out what they like. But it is a balance of reading what everyone's reading versus reading new recommendations. Definitely hard. But also, who are you following? Because I have plenty of people I follow that read so many different genres and so many different books. Even I was on Reading Sprints last night, and Liezl, I'll link her channel down below, she was like, you need to read this book, it is amazing. I'd never heard of it before. It has like 500 ratings of Goodreads, and so I downloaded it to my Kindle, and just like talking to different people and finding new recommendations that way, you can seek out people who read differently. April from Happily Ever April, I always want to say after, she does a ton of fantasy, and she's always talking about books that I have not heard of. Sure, she reads some popular fantasy books, but I love watching her channel to get more, I don't know if I would say niche, but just like other books that I'd not heard of because I'm not like fully immersed in that genre, that subgenre. So I will link April's channel down below as well. And I know like if I want to read fantasy, I'll go check out Jess from Honest Fiction, and she'll have books that are not like the super hyped books that I haven't heard of that I'm like, oh, like I should definitely check that book out. Like I don't see a ton of people talking about that. So you follow different people who read different subgenres. You know, I'm going to talk more about romantic suspense. I'm going to have different kind of recommendations like that. I know that different channels like the overall popular books, then they'll have a lot more sprinkled in. You have to be more particular about who you're following, and just know though that the popular content is what's being pushed, and that's probably why you're seeing it more and not the least popular content. Like I post a book that I'm really excited about that I haven't heard anybody talking about, it barely gets any likes because social media is not pushing that for me. This one's gonna be a doozy. Someone said BookTok ruined the book community. There has been a lot of good to come out of BookTok. A lot of authors have seen a lot of success because of BookTok. It has undoubtedly made reading more popular. People are reading more than ever, and even like when I was a teacher, so many more kids were reading, and they were reading books that they were seeing posted on BookTok. I will say though, with that came a lot of bad things. There's a lot more bad behavior because of BookTok. I think that a lot of people are entitled, and I've been in the book community for a very long time. I started blogging in 2011. I was around when blogs were huge, then we all transferred to Instagram and then YouTube and now TikTok, and there is also a really gross entitlement on TikTok to other people. And I just saw something the other day where someone made a really insensitive sexual joke about someone's husband, and they laughed it off and thought it was funny, and there were people in the comments that were defending him, and then there were people in the comments saying like this is really wrong, but like they thought it was fine. We all know there's been a lot of drama on TikTok of really bad behavior. Unfortunately though, a lot of that gets views, and so a lot of people are not shying away from bad behavior because they will get views, and some people will do anything for views. And I think you can tell with people though. Like I feel like I have a pretty good sense of knowing if someone is in the community because they genuinely love reading, they want to spread their love of reading, and they love authors, or they're just trying to get views and they're trying to do everything they can to blow up. And I think that a lot of people have a good sense of that too. So yeah, BookTok has brought a lot of bad. It has done a lot of good for the community, but it definitely has brought a lot of bad. MM is not a trope. Facts. MM is a relationship dynamic. However, I will list it with the tropes so people know it's an MM romance. So I will say like it's a second chance, it's angsty, and it's MM. I think that it's fair when talking about a book. Like I will say this is a sapphic romance, and it's important to like make it clear the relationship dynamic, because like I want to know like, oh, is a sapphic romance? Like I'm immediately more intrigued by the book because I love sapphic romances, but it's not a trope. However, I'm someone who will list it with the tropes so people know what the relationship dynamic is. But correct, MM is not a trope. It is a relationship dynamic of the book, just like MF, Why Choose, and sapphic, or poly, or all of those. Okay. So I do really get annoyed with people who do this. So it says, I really hate it when a booktuber will show a book with a person on the cover in a haul, and they will cover it, say how ugly and disgusting it is, like don't buy it then. I'm not a fan of people covers and I won't buy them, but it's really not hard to understand the concept of it and not insult it. I get bothered when people do this. I get bothered when people say, oh my god, this person on the cover is so ugly, I hate this cover. And I mean, and I have said I don't like certain covers before. I will say though, I'm someone who loves collecting books. So if that's the only cover available of the book and I really don't like the cover, I'm still gonna buy the book because I really want to read the book. So I don't think it's fair to say like don't buy it then, but I really hate it when people are like, oh, it's a person on the cover and I hate it. Especially also if it's like a shirtless man, because I feel like they're kind of making fun of the whole like sense of the romance genre. If there's a shirtless man on the cover, yeah, there's a couple in a clinched position on the cover. That's not disgusting and something to be embarrassed about. Again, going back to my previous comment about being embarrassed. So I don't love it when people say it's disgusting to have people on the covers or shirtless men on the covers or like couples on the cover. I don't love it when they say that, and I do get annoyed when they say that, because then I'm just like, you don't understand the entire like history of the romance genre and what it means to be a romance novel. It more so sounds like, well, you're just kind of embarrassed to be reading this book because you're embarrassed of romance. But I do understand why they still buy it, because sometimes that's the only option. And I'm someone who loves buying books. And so I'd either buy the book with the cover I don't like or don't buy it. I'm gonna buy the book with the cover I don't like. Don't hate me. So this is another, I feel like we have a lot of cover ones. Oh my god, I've been talking for so long, I haven't even gotten my other ones. There's nothing wrong with the cutesy cartoon covers for spicy books. Those books are clearly in the adult section. You can see and read the back and see that it's about adults. These books are not tricking younger people. If a person under 18 is reading a book, they know perfectly well what they're reading. Yeah, I think they use it to trick their parents. Honestly, I think that they will want, like, I've seen Icebreaker being talked about a lot, and it's easy to trick people who don't know the romance genre in order to read it. I do think that I have instances seen booksellers put them in the wrong section. I have seen YA cutesy covers, illustrated covers in the adult section. I don't know if I've seen that at Barnes & Noble, but I've seen TikToks of cutesy illustrated covers in the YA section of adult books. So people just looking at the cover don't always know, and I do think though it's very easy for younger generations to get away with reading these books and tricking other people into thinking they're not reading a lot of spice. Because I think I saw a TikTok where they were like, a middle schooler was reading Icebreaker. Now, Tori and I did a podcast episode about our history with the romance genre and what we were reading and how, and like, the younger generation, it will get their hands on these stories no matter what. We have Kindles, they have access to Kindles, they have access to Amazon on their phones, they have access to Wattpad, like they have access to things that a lot of kids from our generation had when we were growing up too. I was never a Wattpad person. I used the library. One of my first spicy romances though was an illustrated cover vampire romance. It looked all cutesy. It was spicy. So this has been not a thing that's new. I mean, think about like the early 2000s. We also had a whole like rush of illustrated covers as well. So it's just genre trends, but I do think that there have been instances where booksellers have messed it up, and teens are getting to read a lot more now because things are not obviously spicy. Don't get the hate around third act breakups. I'm not going to read 30% of them in their HEA. True, I don't want to read 30-40% of a book where a couple's like in love happily ever after. However, I think the most frustrating thing is that third act breakups sometimes can be for very annoying reasons or obvious reasons. You're like, okay, well, I know this is a conflict between them. I know it's going to break them apart soon, and I'm just like, ugh, I have to wait for it to happen and then continue on. I do think that authors can do a really good job of not having the breakup, but something keeps them apart, or they have to team up together to focus on some external conflict, which I really like. But I hate it when it's like also like something that they learn about the other person and they're like, oh my god, I knew I could never trust you, and I'm like, we just defeated the entire purpose of all of the character growth in like 70% of this book, and now you're back to square one. Like, really? So it has to be like for a good reason. I think most of the complaints come from when, oh my gosh, it's such a stupid reason they're breaking up, or it's such an obvious reason that I'm just waiting. It just feels like not creative enough, or also it's not necessary to have a breakup. There can be something else. Like I just recently, talking about Loving Romeo by Laura Pavlov, they got together early on, but there was so much against their relationship, but also that the characters were facing as well. So there was someone that was trying to threaten them, and then the hero was also gearing up for a big fight, and they were going to try to figure out like how to make it work because she was also having a lot of pressure from her family. And so like there were a lot of external factors affecting the relationship that they could have easily like gotten mad at each other and broken up, and they didn't. But they're not happily ever after in love. They have so much to still work through, which I think is fair to do instead of a third act breakup. Just saying. I think this is interesting. They said, don't read something just because certain authors wrote it. For example, if someone loved multiple books by a certain author and their next book has a trope they don't like or just doesn't sound interesting, don't read it. Fair. I will say there are authors though, I will literally read everything they write. Even if it's a trope I don't like, I'm like, I trust you, I think we can make it work. However, if it's like not an all-time favorite author, like there have been an uprise in surprise pregnancy romances, and I don't like surprise pregnancy. I like secret baby. I like it when they have a baby, we time jump, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh hey, guess what, like I have your kid. I really like that. But if it's just like a whole entire book about them being pregnant, I don't like it. And I've tried that by some authors that I do like, and it just didn't work. So I don't read those. But like if it's if Gianna Darling decided to write a surprise pregnancy book, I'm going to read it. And I'm going to love it. 90% certain I'm gonna love it. So there are authors I would literally trust with any trope I would read. But if it's an author that's not like that, then fair. I skip it. I just don't read it if it doesn't sound interesting. So true. So this is interesting because I do, for part of my job, help some authors on TikTok, and it says authors spoil their own books trying to go viral on TikTok. The rule about TikTok is that you need to catch the audience with something that will make them want to read the book, and that oftentimes is something specific in the book that's a specific scene. So they are going to spoil a specific scene somehow. I will say there is an author that wrote a Why Choose Romance, and they have a TikToks that go viral about book 2. And so I was reading book 1 and I was like, this character is supposed to be in the Why Choose. I know because I saw the TikTok, and that didn't happen in book 1. So that definitely spoiled part of the book for me. Am I mad? No, because that's what made me pick the book up. So I do think that authors are using their like catchy, tropey, super intriguing scenes to catch readers to pick up their books. If they didn't do that, the readers wouldn't pick up their books in the first place. So they're using these scenes that are like little catnip scenes for their readers, and it might spoil something, but I hope the authors aren't spoiling like I don't think I've seen authors super spoil like endings or anything super important. It's just like a little scene. And I've had someone say like I was spoiling the book when I was like, oh my god, the scene like literally was so good. But if you have like those really like, oh my god, this made me like grin like a maniac fool scene, more people are going to see the TikTok. If I just say, oh, this was a great second chance romance, no one's gonna care. They care about those really specific, like, oh my god, I would die reading that scene, I'm gonna go pick up that book. So I don't think necessarily they're spoiling the whole book. They might spoil a moment, but they're doing that to get readers. So I can see why they're doing that, but it does happen that where they spoil a little too much. Okay, that's the anonymous ones. I'm gonna go into my Instagram and we're just gonna try to, maybe I'll be 10 more minutes. Some people take books too seriously. Bad writing doesn't mean not entertaining. I do think some people take the book community a little too seriously, especially when they start like questioning your rating, and I'm like, listen, I had a fun time. I'm here for the vibes. Let me rate the books how I want to rate them. It's not that deep. I definitely agree. Let people like what they like. Is it the next greatest literary work of all time? No. Did I have fun and was I engrossed and engaged in the story and really loved it? Yes. Let me give it 5 stars. I definitely I agree with this. And I think like I see that too on TikTok. Someone was going off about how like all these people see reading as a competition. Like how can you read like 50 books in a year? Like aren't you sitting there and savoring the book? And you're just like, it's not that serious. Let me read. My friend Kelly did like, let me read my Shrek smut. Like she literally was reading an ogre romance. She's like, I don't need to reflect on this. I'm just reading it for fun. Just let me read. Just let me read. This is interesting. In my reaction, I haven't told Tori yet. So it said, what takes me out of a story so fast is if foul language is peppered in the first page. And I was like, well, with a friend like Tori, I'm fazed by nothing, you know? It's a joke, but I don't agree. Maybe I'm desensitized to the language like that, but no. I've never noticed this, and I don't care if there's language on the first page or not. Like, I don't care. 100% agree with this. This is not a hot take. This is for sure true. People who buy special editions to resell them at astronomical prices drive me mad. I know people who do that, and it makes me livid. The fact that, and like, I hate that there are certain books that are so hard to get, they sell out in seconds. Literally, I tried to get The King of Wrath special edition by Anna Huang twice, and they sold out within a minute both times. The second time they sold out before I even typed my name in the checkout bar. Like, literally sold out, and I know there are going to be people selling it for astronomical prices the next day. They are not buying them to enjoy them. They are making profits off of flipping books and doing that to sustain themselves. Do people need money? Yes. If you need money, you gotta do what you gotta do. But you are really ruining the experience of buying special edition books when you do that, and I really hate people who do that because it just feels like icky. It just feels icky to me, and I hate it. I hate it. Enemies to lovers isn't the superior trope. Friends to lovers all the way. I love friends to lovers romances. They're so good. There's like a different level of angst when it's friends to lovers. Sometimes it gets too sweet, but I do love it. I do think a lot of people have opinions about enemies to lovers, and I do think like sometimes they're really mean to each other for no reason, but other times when there's a reason for them to hate each other, it does get angsty. I like both, but I can see. The person who sent this in said some special editions are just adding foiling and embossing to ugly designs. I do agree that there are some special editions that sometimes feel rushed or aren't actually like anything special, and they literally do just add like embossing to cover and that's it. There are certain people like Afterlight, I'm obsessed with their books. They have dust jackets, they always have embossing underneath the dust jacket of a different design, they always have illustrated end pages, like some go all out and they are stunning, while some don't. So we'll leave it there. Historical romances are underrated. I think that now, yes, and I have not done a good job of reading them in the past year and a half, and I definitely need to. I hate love triangles, and it's the trope that most adapted on TV or movies. It is so entertaining. Love triangles are so dramatic and so angsty and just so, that's why they make good TV, because you get so invested in the characters. You're like, who you're gonna choose? Like Vampire Diaries, like Twilight, because you get so invested and you're like, I need to know who you're gonna choose. I love love triangles. They're very entertaining, very dramatic. That's why they make good TV. Bride was very boring. Okay. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. Fake datings and enemies to lovers are way too oversaturated. I do think that there are some tropes that get to be too much because every author is writing. I don't know if they're trying to ride the coattails of certain authors that are doing super successful and they want to like, okay, this author did really well with that trope, I'm gonna try it out. Fake dating is definitely one I've seen a lot, and I'm a little bit over fake dating. I've read a lot recently for some reason this month. A lot of times I don't like know the like super in-depth plot to the book. I'll just pick it up because I'm excited. So I think I read like 3 fake dating romances this month. I liked them, but I'm like, oh my god, another one. So like, yes, there are tropes that can get really overdone, but that's because there's trends and authors are jumping on the trends, and then after a while you're like, okay, like let's mix it up, give me something new. Okay, there are a couple things about, this is so funny. So right back to back we have, there's some author books should be, that are said our romance should go more into erotica. I think that's not necessarily true because erotica is literally straight up spice. It's spice with some plot. There are romance books that have a really good plot, but also a lot of spice that's really integral to the plot that I think is important. And I know certain authors where I've seen people like rip them apart for how much spice they have, and I get really annoyed and defensive for them because I'm like, that's their brand and that's their book. Like especially like Taboo, and just that's part of their book and that's part of their couple exploring their ability to be together, and I think that spice is so important in that sense. Someone said there's a space and it's okay to prefer romance with closed doors. Fair. Go, that's fine. Like you can enjoy closed door romances. I don't like the stigma against spice though, and I guess there's a stigma against closed door romances, but just like let people like what they like. Let people like what they like. And I did just film my wrap up where there was a book that I said there was too much like spice that didn't add anything. It didn't add anything to the romance, it didn't add anything to the plot. It was just there for it to be there. And I do think that authors need to be very in tune with what their spice is doing for their stories. A lot of times it's very important to their story and it does serve a purpose, and sometimes it's just like a little too much. And so I do have someone that said there is not too much spice in romance, and it's just like a conversation I don't think there's ever going to be a consensus on. There are some people who think that romance is too spicy. There's some people who think like they want to read closed door. Some people could never want to read closed door. I personally don't love closed door romances. I think that there is a sense of really deep emotional connection with the spice and romances that really serves to the development of a relationship, and I want to see that on page. Like I remember reading a book and like half the spice scenes were closed door, including the first one, and I'm like, they are literally getting together, all this build up, and then you're like, okay, it's the next morning, and I'm like, but like where's my payoff? Like I am so invested in these characters, I want to see that intimate part of them falling for each other, and it just like is gone. So I don't love closed door books. If you do, totally fine, but let's not judge people who like spice, and let's not judge people who don't like spice. Like let people like what they want, and don't be mean about it. Okay, so this is interesting. Someone said booktubers are making videos that booktube is dying because of short form content. Mine is that it's not, it's just filtering itself out. I don't know what that second part means, but I think that booktube goes through cycles. There are certain times, because I've had a channel for a while, there are times when certain content is doing really well. On my channel specifically, my trope videos used to do so well. Like I would know, okay, I'm gonna film an age gap romance video. That's gonna be the best one I post for the week. Like I know that out of all the videos I'm doing, that one's gonna do the best. Now, that doesn't do the best because there's trends in everything. There's trends in what people want from their content, and I do think that TikTok with short form content lets people get those recommendations quickly. They're like, I want an age gap romance. I'm not gonna watch this 15-minute YouTube video. I'm gonna watch this 15-second TikTok, get my recommendations, and I'm out of here. That's why I've seen longer videos doing so well on YouTube. Different vlogs, giving you different entertainment beyond just the book recommendation, I've personally seen doing really well. And that's just another trend happening in social media and booktube. Booktube's not dying. Different content on booktube is dying, and other ones are doing really well. I mean, are my views down overall? Yes. And that's just something I'm trying to experiment with, reflect on, and figure out what my audience actually wants from me. So I'm not blaming booktube dying on my lack of views. I'm blaming, okay, my creativity, what am I doing, how can I be better, and experimenting with that. So I don't think it's fair to say booktube is dying. There are some people who are literally blowing up on booktube, and I'm looking at what they're doing. I'm like, okay, what are the trends, what are people loving to see? And it's for sure experimental videos, it is reading vlogs and different things like that, and I'm just seeing with my content, okay, what's not doing well, okay, cool, let's like figure out what my audience wants to see. So it's just changes, like social media changes, what people want changes, trends are gonna change, just like trends in books are gonna change, trends and what people want to watch are gonna change. People are still watching YouTube. Someone hates small town romance. Fair. You can hate small town romance. I love it. But it's not everybody's gonna love every genre. Totally fair. Third act breakups are fun, otherwise it gets boring. We discussed that. Just something needs to happen, some sort of conflict, whether it's a third act breakup or not, definitely does need to happen. And women judging other women on what they read is so prevalent. Sad that mean girls exist in this space. Agree. Do not judge people for what they read. I have been judged for what I read and I get annoyed. I'm like, let me enjoy what I enjoy. You can enjoy what you can enjoy. Don't judge each other on what we read. Don't be mean girls. Mean girls exist. I am aware. I have had to deal with that. Read what you want to read and let other people read what they want to read. Don't make fun of them. My literal best friend loves historical fiction. Loves it. Tori, we joke about it all the time. I love romantic suspense. Do I like historical fiction? No. I'll read it. I've read it before, but she gets so passionate about it. And you know what? I get excited for her. I'm like, you loved that book. I am so happy you found a new favorite book. I mean, I actually might pick it up because she loved it so much, honestly, but like, I'm not gonna make fun of her for liking it. Just like, I'm reading Nora Roberts. She was like, we were talking about it. She's like, should I pick up on Nora Roberts? I was like, no, you'd hate it. She's like, fair. Is she making fun of me for liking it? No. We are excited for each other, for what we are loving, and I think that's something we should let people do. Let people love what they love and don't make fun of them for it. Because people have definitely made fun of me for what I like to read. Like, go enjoy what you like. Stop caring about what other people are reading. Just read what you like. Okay, and on that note, let me know your thoughts on these. This was a very long video, but let me know anything and everything you're thinking about these. If you agree or disagree, if you have other hot takes, let me know. Just like, my takeaway is, let people enjoy what they enjoy. Let people read what they read. Yeah. And that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.